Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Here now to break down what's happening in Michigan and elsewhere around the country is Trump campaign National Press Secretary Hogan Gidley. It's good to have you back.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the time.
Okay, so the Trump campaign has filed suit in federal court over the vote in Michigan. What's the crux of the suit?
Well, there have been a lot of irregularities across this entire country, including in Michigan. People being shouted down, people not allowed to witness and watch voting being counted right before their very eyes, blocking witnesses that are needed and required by state law. Things like that are very problematic, and when you do things behind closed doors, you can't be secure in the actual result. Things need to be transparent. People need to be able to know what's going on. And Michigan is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, Pennsylvania, for example, 2.6 million votes were cast without having signature verification done. So we have no idea of knowing if the people who sent those ballots in or not are the actual people. There are more than 680,000 votes in Pennsylvania in just two counties that were cast in Allegheny and Philadelphia counties where there was no one to overview those either. So the fact is there have been a lot of votes cast in several states that leave us to wonder just how legitimate the election is. Now, once the results come through and some of these states are certified and we go through legal processes, then it makes people feel a little bit more comfortable in the outcome. But right now, if there's this type of evidence all over the country, then there are serious questions about how this election was conducted.
On Thursday, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel said, quote, none of the allegations made by the dozens of observers who have filed affidavits are true. And she said, quote, really the themes that we see that persist are this: black people are corrupt, black people are incompetent, and black people can't be trusted. That's the narrative that is continually espoused by the Trump campaign and their allies in these lawsuits. What's your response to that?
That's offensive and ridiculous on every single level. This president has done more for the African American community than most previous presidents, and for her to make that claim is so ridiculous, so ludicrous, and so out of touch with reality. There's a reason this president actually won a larger share of African American votes than any Republican in history, and it's because he has done more for the African American community, whether it be passing criminal justice reform, historic funding for black colleges and universities, all of the work he did for the opportunity zones as well. That type of result is proof that this president wants all Americans to succeed, regardless of race, religion, color, and creed. And for her to dismiss affidavits that are sworn under the penalty of perjury just for political reasons, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to prove that people voted in a responsible, real manner? It's pretty obvious that folks like that Attorney General are clearly scared of what they may find out, and it's that Republicans, this president, have made significant inroads into all of the communities that have gone to make this country a great place, and it frustrates them when you have a president like Donald Trump, who's been accused of the most horrific, vile things with no evidence, no proof, just to try and fit a narrative. But this president does better in all of the voting demographics, including with women, including with Hispanic Americans, including with African Americans. It's proof positive that this president cares about all of the people in this country, and he also cares about making sure that this election is free and is fair, and that regardless of your skin tone, that if you cast a vote and it's legal, it should be counted. And right now, there's serious doubt on whether that's the case, and that's why this president is trying to get to the bottom of it.
I'm a writer for Breitbart, and I've been covering what's been going on in Michigan, and I've asked the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, in light of all of these allegations, these affidavits, all of that, I have said to her, are you going to do an investigation to ensure the Secretary of State's election rules in terms of counting and all of that, but then also Michigan law is being followed? they simply will not answer that question. And so to your point about, you would think that they would want to make sure that this is on the up and up. It doesn't seem like they want to do that. But how does the Trump campaign hope for this to turn out? Is it to throw out the corrupt ballots? What's the remedy?
Well, a couple things. There's only one party who does not want Social Security numbers to be known when you vote, does not want signatures to be matched when you vote, does not want picture ID when you vote, does not want proof of citizenship when you vote. That's the Democrat Party. Now, that in and of itself opens up our system to rampant fraud and abuse. The fact is, we want all the legal votes to be counted. Big tech, big media, big business don't decide elections. American people, the citizens of this country, casting legal ballots, legal votes, that's what decides elections here. And so whether this is overturned or not, whether the votes come in and prove that Donald Trump is the president for 4 more years or not, the American people deserve to know what is going on in this country with our election system. And the media early on said there is no such thing as fraud. We don't see it. Where's the evidence? So we showed them dead people who not just voted, dead people who from the grave were able to request a mail-in ballot, cast a mail-in ballot, and then mail the mail-in ballot. Those dead people voted, and we showed them the proof. Then we had thousands of people across the country who voted where they didn't live. We showed that to the media. Then all of a sudden the media kind of tried to change it and say, well, wait a minute, there may be fraud, but there's not enough fraud. I just gave you 2.6 million votes in Pennsylvania that by Pennsylvania law cannot be counted. That's enough to overturn that election easily. Other states have the same problems with tens of thousands of ballots being cast without having a person from the opposite party being able to view the casting of that ballot, which again is by their state laws illegal. And I should further note, it kind of is upsetting, but I joke as if only we had a document out there, if only there was some type of governing document that our founders could have written that would have helped us in a time like this. It's the Constitution. It already has been written, and it says the legislatures in these states make up the rules and laws around elections. Secretaries of state don't, attorneys general don't, and Supreme Courts in individual states don't either. It's set by the legislature, and if these laws have been changed weeks before an election by an overzealous partisan Secretary of State and an overzealous partisan radical court, in our mind, that casts serious doubt on the legitimacy of those votes. And if we follow the Constitution and follow the laws in these individual states, those votes are going to have a really difficult time being counted.
Well, and to that point, on Thursday, a Pennsylvania judge said none of the segregated ballots could be counted, which were those that were received after the November 3rd deadline. They were initially set aside. What impact do you think that will have?
Again, I'm not sure how many were counted. Look, Pennsylvania has an issue in which days before the election, they decided, obviously that they were going to begin counting some of these ballots, or at least figuring out the envelope situation. And let me be clear. Let me back up here for a second. In Pennsylvania, the law says that mail-in ballots have to be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day. What they started doing days before the election is taking these mail-in ballots and either holding them to the light, feeling with their hands, and God forbid, which is illegal, opening them, and finding out the privacy envelope inside was not there. So typically you cast your ballot, you put it in a privacy envelope, you put that envelope in another envelope, and then mail it off. By Pennsylvania law, if there is no privacy envelope, then you have to throw it out. They were letting voters know in 7 counties, surprise, surprise, all Democrat counties, that those ballots may not be counted because the privacy envelope wasn't inside. Again, how they knew it, I don't know. But they told them ahead of time and told those people to either go vote again by mail or to come in person and vote again, a second time, which of course would be illegal too. But they didn't do it all over the state. It's equal protection that has been violated in Pennsylvania because they didn't do it in the 60 other counties They only did it in Democrat counties, making those null and void too. So there are serious legal questions to be asked. At the very least, you wouldn't know the name Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Comey, Clapper, Brennan without Donald Trump, because he fights back. He's not going to let the deep state, he's not going to let anybody smear the American people or take away, the confidences we have in our government. He's going to expose it. He'll do the same here. We got to have patience. We need time. We need to look at these things. But the fact is, this president wants to make sure that every single person out there knows that if they cast a vote and it was legal, that it was counted.
We're just about out of time, but what's the timeline that the campaign's working on? Because there is sort of the drop-dead date, if you will, of mid-December for the Electoral College. But what's the timeline you're on?
Well, that's just it. There really is no timeline because we don't know how these court cases are going to shake out. If all of a sudden courts start ruling, with the current law that these votes can't be counted, then we've changed the whole dynamic of the race. And I don't know what that does to the calendar of electors meeting, of their votes, of the legislature potentially getting involved here, of the Supreme Court getting involved. I just don't know that because we're still really early in the process. Remember, it took a month and change for Al Gore to find out the actual results and George Bush to find out the actual results in one small place in Florida. This is multiple states with tens of millions of votes. It's a serious issue, and we're looking into it.
All right. Well, Hogan Gidley, Trump Campaign National Press Secretary, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back.